Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to install MySQL to your Windows 10 machine. First you can just go to google.com and type in MySQL and can go to the first search result, which will lead you to mysql.com website. And in the website you should be able to find Downloads tab. Let's click to that page. In the downloads page, you should be able to find MySQL Community Downloads tab. Make sure it has GPL included in the name, and we want to download this version. Let's click into. Since I'm using the Windows machine, let's click MySQL installer for Windows. And you can see here has two installer types. One is web-based, has only 2.4 megabytes files to download, and the second one has over 400 megabytes file. The difference in between is the first one is web-based. When you download this file, it will still use your internet to complete the installation. But the second one, once you download, you can install anytime without the internet. In here, need to note that I'm downloading the latest MySQL version, which is the 8.0. And also you want to check your operating system. Here I'm using Windows, so I'm downloading the Windows version. So let's hit the download button for downloading the installer. And this page, after you hit the download button, it will ask you to log in or sign up for an Oracle account. This is not mandatory. You can just click no thanks, just start my download. Yeah, the download has just completed. Now you can close your browser and go to your download folder. You should be able to find the installer in your download folder. Let's click into it. In the installer, the first page will ask you what MySQL product you want to install. Here has a few options here. The first is developer default, server only, client only, full version, or you custom, whichever product you want to install. If you want to know what are the details for each of the option, you can just review the right section. It shows you what are included in this download option. For the developer default version, it will include MySQL Server, the shell router, MySQL Workbench, MySQL for Visual Studio, MySQL for connector. Here I need to highlight MySQL connector is mandatory if later on you want to use any of the programming language to connecting to MySQL. Later I will demonstrate how to use Python connecting to your MySQL server. Here I'm just going to hit next. This will show the items to be downloaded. Let me just hit execute. And once it's completed, just hit you can hit next to go to next step. Here you will notice those are the options that you selected in the first page of the downloading packages that which of the product you want to install. Let's hit execute. It will download each of options one by one. Once all downloads completed, you can just proceed to next. Then you can just click finish to complete your installation. Now the installation has completed. How you configure the server? You can go to the Windows search bar and type in MySQL installer and click in. It will show MySQL server here. Let's us click the reconfigure. Then you will go to the tab and the networking page to set up the MySQL connectivity info. In the first section, it asks you the config types. It really depends on your use case. You can either select in developing computer. If you install the MySQL in a server computer and use it on a dedicated server, then you can select that option. For my case, I'm going to select development computer as my option. And you can just leave the connectivity as a default. Let's click next. And in MySQL 8.0, it has an option to choose a strong password encryption for authentication. This is recommended if you use your MySQL in a big corporate, or potentially the database will be shared with other users. But this is the MySQL server that I'm going to use locally only. I'm going to use a legacy authentication method, and click next and create the root password. You can just type in whatever root password you want for your case, and just repeat the password. And this section, you can create a MySQL user accounts, which you can create multiple users for different access levels to the same MySQL server. Here I'm just going to create a new user and create a username. In my case, I'm going to type in CJLED. You can type in whatever username you prefer. And the host, this is the local computer I'm using. You can select local host. For this case, I'm just going to leave it as a default. And also the role of this user. And for this one, I'm going to use for myself. I'm going to grant the highest level, which is the DB admin user, and create a password and click OK. Now you can see the new user has been added to the account. Let's click next. Here is showing the Windows server's name, which is MySQL 8.0, represent to MySQL 8.0 version. And you do want to check the start of MySQL server at the system startup, so you don't have to manually start up the server every time you start a computer. And just going to leave the run Windows servers as a default here, and hit next. And here it's showing all the steps that to finish your configurations. Let's click execute. Now the water configurations has completed. Let's just click finish. To access to your server, you can go to your search bar and type in MySQL Workbench and hit enter. In the first option, you can find the MySQL server you just configured. Let's click into it, put in your root password. Now you are in the server, you can click to check your server status to see if everything works as expected. And also you can go to your schemas tab and find out the current schemas. In here only has one schema, which is the sys. And to create more schemas, simply you can type in SQL in the central section. You can type in SQL language create database. There's a typo. It's called database, and your database name, which let's call CJ test, and semicolon. And you can click the execution button. Now you can see the output result here. One row being affected. If you hit the refresh button here to refresh your schemas, now you can see the new schema or database has just been created. To use this schema, you can type in use CJ test semicolon. This will change your default schema to this new database. And let's create a new simply create a new table in this schema. Let's say create table people and parentheses. Now you can input the columns you want to include in this table. So I want to include a person ID, which is an integer, comma, and last name, which you can define the varchar 30, and comma, first name, varchar 30 as well. Yeah, I just want to include these three columns of for now. And let's close the parentheses and type in semicolon again and hit execute. Then refresh the schemas again. Then you can find in the table tab, you can see this is the table you have just created. You can click this table icon it will show the 3 columns tab you input for creating. Okay, that's it for MySQL installation and the basic setup in MySQL Workbench. Please feel free to leave comment if you have any questions, and please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.